Good morning and welcome back to Craft. I'm Natalie and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work with text today. So we've had a few requests on the group for different ways of working with text. So while we're just waiting for everybody to join because we're a bit early today, very quickly I'll take you through yesterday. So we did some colouring yesterday, so these are the finished pieces that we're going to be working with later on. Hasn't moved, has it? Okay, so I'll show it again. So, that one, and that one. So I've die cut some sentiments and I've already mounted them onto a contrasting cardstock.
You've moved your mat, haven't you?
Not really.
You picked it up and moved it.
I only picked it and put it back down, and that shouldn't really change how much the camera zoomed.
It was in the middle of the camera.
There you go. Just to make you happy. Have to keep the cameraman happy, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so both of the cardstocks that I'm using are from Dovecraft.
Those are lovely, Nat. Those are Tracy, but I can't see Tracy's comments. So let's use that. Morning, Tracy.
Now, Carol, are you there, Carol? Or are you late for class, Carol? Is Mum there yet?
Well, not those two.
Okay, so I'm going to do my card straight to my mat.
Tracy asked, how are we all?
We're alright. So I'm going to inset it because I know I want to work with direct cut. So it's always easier if we just bring it in from the edge of our mat. Just make sure that we know that everything is within the cuttable area. Top tip.
Guys said no, me and me wonky hour here.
Oh dear, still not fixed it.
We're going to scan and cut.
Yes. Okay, so I've just taken my blade out so I can turn my machine on. And go, okay. I'm going to load my mat. Okay, to scan. Let's grab a pencil so I don't have to reach quite so far. And direct cut. Hasn't found the network yet, so we'll just give it a little while. There we go. So what it will do is it will ask you if you want to do it with the machine or with canvas. Now there's quite a few tricks that we can do if we send it to canvas, but just to start with, I'm going to show you why you might want to do that. So if we go to machine, and it's nice high contrast powering that I've done, so I should be okay if I go to black and white. Okay, and hit play. What's the question?
Could I put something through, like put some double-sided tape on the underside of the key? Yeah.
Is it that the actual like legs of the actual key have snapped? Can you get it off to actually have a look and see what's going on? It could be that you've got something trapped underneath there as it is.
And Tracy wants to know, am I allowed to upload a file to the album competition because my scan and cut is stuffing up with the sticky roll and I can't cut at the moment. I created it all myself and it's not a copied file.
files off the top of my head have to go in the file section, but if you want to just title it as for competition with your name, you can do it that way.
Or she could send it to us.
Or send it to us
Drop
privately.
it in a private message to us, Tracy, and we'll judge it that way for you.
Yeah, might even have a place if we can cut it for you. So when you say you're gunking up your machine at the moment, have you tried a little bit of alcohol on your blade just to clean your blade off on a cotton wool bud? Very carefully, because that works. Works with scissors as well. And the same with the plastic bit of your blade. So if you just wipe over this end section here and then unscrew it and just check there's nothing inside. But your rollers and everything should be fine with adhesive because they have to put up with that the rest of the time anyway. So if we go to OK, and I'm going to focus first of all on this thank you down the bottom.
Masking tape on the front roller.
Ooh. Tweezers. So what we want to do when we're working white on dark, we need to bring in our frame so it comes right inside this black line here. And then if it's good, it should pick it up. Notice I should. And that's interesting today, it's not going to pick it up. So we're going to go into our contrast. Let's try going that way to start with.
Okay, Carl says can't tell if the legs are gone or not, but when I go onto the R it pushes it back in for a while.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the
grip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Zena says morning.
You can get replacement keys.
Yes.
So it might be worth just getting a replacement R.
Have a look on eBay, just for the sort of match up your keyboard and go, I need one of those. Mats that are chewed up in the corners as well. No.
Right. Mats that are chewed up in the corners, take your blade out when you load your mat, so you'll see most times I'll be good and I will unload my blade. Because if what it is when you're putting your mat into load, it catches on your blade and that's how it bends the corners. But if you've already bent it, you can warm just the corner of it with a hairdryer or something like that, and then flatten it out and put a weight on it, and it should come back to being flat enough for you to load. But make sure you warm it up first, otherwise you risk snapping it off. And also cutting it off won't help either, because you're stopping where your normal pickup point would be. So you run the risk of your mat going skewed. Okay, so if we do this one at the moment, you'll notice, yep, okay, it's done a perfect outline, thank you. But we've lost these bits on the inside here. Okay. And you can see we're not getting any option to go inside too. And if we would put our offset on, okay, probably about 1 mil is probably enough on this, to be honest. So that will cut it out as one whole panel. Now there are times when that will work for you. Okay, so if you're doing a cake topper, that's how you would do it then. So you have enough to adhere it to something else like a stick to go in a cake. But if you're looking for something that's going to be a bit more delicate, then you're going to want to cut these inside bits out. Okay, so that's when we would go to send it to the cloud instead of the machine. Now if I go back here and instead I go up to our friend up here, just going to bring it down slightly. Okay, and preview.
Carol didn't know you could get replacement keys. You can
Oh,
for
yeah.
most keyboards, yes.
Yeah, especially popular ones. So things like your Logitech,
Well, even
trust,
most of the
you can
standard
get
ones you can get
replacement.
them,
So basically it's where somebody else's keyboard had a similar fault and then they decide to replace it, whatever, and just use it for spares.
That £1.99 for a replacement key.
That's not bad,
Yeah.
rather than, 20 quid and upwards for a replacement keyboard. Well, decent replacement keyboard. You can get them for less, but... Okay, so, as we've now done this bit, if I zoom in so you can see that each shape is individual. So if we wanted to just cut this out as is, that would be great. Okay, but then when we start to put a offset on, it's going to do it around each individual shape. So let's say we go and put 2 on, just so you can see, because that should be enough for them to overlap. So if we zoom in so we can see the joins. So you can see these shapes will overlap and they will actually cut out like that and cross over, which isn't what you want.
Do you weld it?
That's just what I'm going to see if I can do.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I tried this the other day, so I already know the answer. Okay, so if we're going to edit the canvas, where you would expect to see your button to be able to merge, it actually doesn't exist. So this is another occasion where you'll want to use the cloud instead, because then you'll have the option to actually merge the trace shape. So if we go back home, okay, scan, direct cut and send it to canvas. Okay, so what this is now saying is it's sent it up to the internet, and then when you're ready, press that button to bring it back down. So at this point we're going to do big swapsies.
Quick do as you do.
Yeah. So bear with us. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
There you go, I'll leave you the pencil.
Okay. Now I'll swap your camera over.
Hang on, I haven't got to.
So that's in your swipe.
Right. Okay.
Oh, no. On camera.
Let's get it up big enough so you can see. There we go. So now when we come into Canvas, we have 2 ways that we can work with an image. So if we want to do an image tracing, we can go image tracing and then an image scan by your machine. Okay. We're going to change, let's do the frame first.
Just to let you know, I can't see comments at the moment. Well, no, I'm just using the computer, so if there are any comments, I'll answer them afterwards.
So if we bring that in, we can see that we are getting some of the detail, but not all of it. And if we were to take it up to, let's say 15. Oh, come on. Do it manually, just because you can see it's not really going to pick it up. If we go to trace areas by colour, again you can see it's not really picking up that detail. So that's why we need enhanced image tracing. Now at this point it's going to go all the way around your selected area. Don't panic. So I would suggest working on one area at a time. So I'm just going to concentrate on this thank you to start with. So I'm going to use the minus pencil to go like that. If it's clever, it'll work out what you're trying to do. Now all of these lines are editable at any point, and you can still zoom in if you want to. So you can start to see it starting to pick things up. And you can erase lines that you no longer need. So it's getting a bit better. And a bit better. Now if we zoom in a bit more, we can start to work inside our shape. So remember, no matter what we're doing, that file, that scan is still being held up on the internet. So even if we just focus on one bit and go okay, we can still go back and get the other bit until the next time that we do a scan. So just hold it there in limbo for as long as you need it. Okay, and in the center holes we can just do a little, and if it doesn't go quite right we can do it again. Take it out if we need to.
Deborah says hello.
Hello Deborah. There we go.
I managed to switch apps so I can now see the comments.
Cool. So the trick is to do little pieces and then tidy up until you get exactly how you want it. So if you're finding that bits aren't working for you, take them out. Now because it's sat line it may go a bit mad, but we'll see. Without the hot stick. One tick just in case maybe. There we go. So you just need to come down in here. Round the egg. Same in here. Need to come down and take that section out. Another section here to come up. It may just nick that white edge, so we'll check that in a minute. notice that sometimes something you do over here changes over here, and it's basically looking at tolerances for colours, believe it or not. So if you want to, you can get right down to the tiny, tiny holes.
It's making me work hard today.
It is. I had fun doing this the other day. So the other thing to bear in mind is there's no point taking out pieces that it would put back in with an offset anyway. And a big bit there. There we go. We're getting there. And just down here. There we go. That's probably close enough for what we need. So at this point we can go OK. Before we do, just untick paste image on drawing area. We don't need it at this point. So we can go OK. So if we go to our layers, this big shape up top we don't need. And if we have like the internal little hole sections, like so, we want to take a big shape down to the bottom. So tall, and then please don't crash on me when I do this. Yay! I'm going to go to offset. Not that I'm used to it crashing on me or anything. And I think I just did one the other day, so I'll just go for 1 mil. And in this case, we're going to delete the original line because we just want to have that cutting line, and we're going outward. And ignore that one. So we want to have it do inside here as well, otherwise there's no point doing that whole thing. Go OK. So we have our thank you shadow. Now don't move this shape because that's aligned to your mat. So at this point we can lock them. Now the other option that you have is that we can go File, Import from your cutting machine, a scanned image. So this is useful if you want to do an intricate shape over the top of something that you've already stamped, if you want to add a frame to it, so that number one, you're not looking at a tiny screen and trying to align it, and also you can then start to work with your SVGs in other sources, which is good. You should be doing that. So our image will throw up a hissy fit if you try and send it like that. So once you've done what you need to do, just delete it. And I think what I'm going to go for is, let's go to some basic shapes. other thing to do is lock your image as well, because again, that's aligned to your map. Gonna drag it in. Use it that way. Now, just because we're human beings and not everything's put on the map square and perfect, we can use our rotate tool just to make sure it's level. Bring it in that way. And then if we click again, we can get to our nodes. So we can click and drag over the top of our bottom set. And we can move them upwards. So what I'm doing is pressing and holding shift and tapping the up arrow key. So instead of having that rather long tail, we can actually go, I just want it short.
Okay, I'll have a look at image tracing and make sure it's come through. I'm back on the right screen.
Okay. So once you're happy with that, we're going to get rid of the image and then transfer everything back via the internet. That's just saying that it won't be docked when it gets to the machine, which is fine. Okay, okay, and over to you, Ian.
You can come back, don't you know?
Okay, we'll do a dozy do again.
Oh.
You knocked that there. Let the cameraman readjust. Okay. Okay, so now we can go to our little cloud key to pull it all back down. So we can see we have our thank you with the outline, we have our friend with the tag shape, and we still have the option to add an extra offset if we want to. So if you'd, for whatever reason, done all the image tracing and forgotten to do the offset, you can still come back and do it on here. You also have access to your premium functions, so if you want to foil that line.
If you don't know how stamp sets, how do you create something like this?
Okay, I'm going to get onto that in a minute. So if you don't have dies or anything, I will come back to canvas in a minute and I'll show you how to do a sentiment on there. Okay, so I'm going to go okay, and Dovecraft card, what would you say?
6.
6, so in which case I'm going to set it to 7 then, because I've got 2 layers of it and I've only got 1 mil offset. Tidied up. Where's my spatula gone? It's probably staring at me. She says.
It's up in the top at the back. Cross, other way. No.
I can't see. Right down the back. So, just so we can get this off here. say so myself. There you go. So of course, if you're not doing this live on stream, you can take more time to get right into the nooks and crannies. And there's our tag. So this one is going to go on our lovely butterfly tree, and I think I'm going to do a nice oval for it.
That's pretty good, great job.
It is worth the investment in the enhanced image tracing, because it can save you bacon sometimes when the machine can't see something, especially if you like creating your sentiments from pattern paper like I tend to.
That was just beautiful.
If we go back home, I'm going to go to pattern, going to go down to where the ovals are.
Deborah says beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so for now I'm just going to leave it at its standard settings and go set. I'm going to do a background scan.
So what the stamp is? What the stamp is? Okay.
Go on then. So I'm just going to take the shape over the top. Ian's going to tell you about the stamp in a minute.
The stamp that Natalie used for this is a chocolate baroque one, and it's the Dreaming Trees, I believe.
Butterfly tree, isn't it?
Butterfly tree. Oh.
Okay, so I've just increased the basic size of my oval, but as you can see, it's literally just going round the size of our tree. Now I'm thinking I want to go a little bit bigger than that. So if I press this little button here with two sets of arrows, so it turns blue, that means I can alter the width and the height independently. So I'm going to go out this way. And you'll notice, although I'm offset to my background, my tree wasn't quite the centre. So I kind of started with my tree in the middle and sized outwards. So now I have a decision to make, because I can either move my oval so it's central of my base card, but then my tree will be off, or I can just cut it to suit the size of the tree. Now what this really depends on is whether you're planning to use the outside piece. So for instance, what you can do is you could cut that panel out, then stick it onto some contrasting card, do a shadow cut, and then 3D it up from your background piece, so you almost bring it forward as like a panel. Or you could just literally use it on its own. So, because I like how this has come out in terms of the extra pattern along here, I think I'm going to 3D it up. So, just to kind of make that balance make sense, I think we're going to have to put some sort of border element down here. So I'm just going to go OK, and I'm just going to zoom in, and I just want to check that I'm not cutting any element off my tree. I can move up very slightly, and if you're going to have to go off wonky, make it look like it was supposed to be wonky. So don't do it slightly off, go well and truly off.
Tracy just 3D. Your mum says sorry, I was a bit late.
Oh, dear, 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 detention. Was it that naughty granddad again? Okay, so stamping card. There you go, mister. I know what the blade is.
6.
6. So We had it on 7 for the last one, so I'll bring it back down because there's only one there.
Just sitting on screen. Am I right? Is that right?
Let you know. There we go. Perfect first time. Okay, so I need another sheet of navy, but it's going to have to be a big sheet.
That could be interesting.
Ooh, how about that top blue actually? Let's try that. Maybe this is the wrong shade of blue, but let's have a look. What's the next one?
No.
It says something a bit more bluey blue, like. How about that pale blue for a change? Yeah, that one. Let's try. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, gonna go for that one. So when we're sticking something like this to the card for scanning, we want to make sure that we leave enough room, especially if we're working with a 12 by 12 sheet, because we can't inset it from the edge.
Jay said you need auto cut when you have any end long.
Yeah, don't need an auto blade. Even in classes you do it, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring this well in on both the top and the left hand edge. Just going to press that down well. Excuse me, I just need a flat surface. There we go. So again, don't forget this could be slightly off, so try and get it as close as possible. But I think it's perfect. Pop up.
6 should be alright.
Okay, just because this is still on the machine, I'm just going to stand up just so I can see over the top. Take my staple back in my glue before I lose it. It's very fine nib, this one, but it doesn't have clog easily. There we go. So if we go OK, so we're going to go back home, scan, direct cut, because we're cutting it out of this. And I'm going to let the machine see if it can do it to start with, but because it's a low contrast, we're going to go for colour. Okay, now that would be great if I wanted to cut out the tree on this occasion, but no. That's just difficult. Now if I wanted it to cut out the tree... oh dear. So, I'm going to go, okay, back, back again, and back to direct cut and take it to canvas instead. I'm going to make it and do a little dance again. Okay, for this little dance.
You're back in, Jan.
Okay. So if you decide that you want to save all of these, we can just take the lock off, save that, group it, and I'll just hide it for now. So because I don't think it will trace successfully, I'm just going to bring it in as an image. Ta-da! How much my cup of tea?
Dunno.
Never thought for the moment.
Cold
Okay.
if you didn't.
Yeah. So because we know that we stretched our oval, we'll just do this manually. If you knew that you hadn't, you could just make sure that you just use your corner point and you will get an accurate shape fairly easily. Okay, so we can see from our first sizing that it's very slightly off. It's not that bad. Just going to tweak it this way a bit. There we go. So the reason I've matched up my ovals, then it would be much more difficult for me to do an offset manually when I can get my teeth in. So therefore, if I create the shape that it is now, then I can get the computer to do the offset. I'm going to go a bit bigger with the offset for this one. So I'm going to go for 3. And again, we don't need that original line. So we have a nice frame round. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And if you're a bit frugal like me, you can even, actually no, not for this one, but there's a way that you can actually hollow your card out. But for this one, no, I won't do that. Okay, I'm going to go to File and transfer it back through the internet. Okay.
Come on then.
Where's my pencil gone? I left it over there on the deck mat.
Yeah. Hang on, let me change the cameras back.
Okay. There we go. So pull it back in. If you're struggling thinking that's a bit pale, oh, that's on the darkest colour, paler the pale. Okay. So Ian said 6 for this, but we've got this card mount on top. But 3mm means that our grey section of our blade is going to be right on this edge. So for starters, do it on the blade that you would normally cut the card on if it was on its own, and then test it from there. I do is lift it up from the bottom. Oh, look at that. He's good, isn't he? Thank you. Can you just hold on to that for a bit? Because I might need that when we put the card together. Not literally. So if we go back to card base, we then have a nice little pop-out frame. We can then put our thank you on. Do you want to go back to the overhead for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our friend. So I'll probably go something like that one. So there's our first card design completed. So what I'll do is I will adhere that to a card base after stream. So, next. The next question was doing sentiments in canvas, wasn't it? Without doing stamps. Sorry, Ian.
No, you're not.
Sorry, not sorry. So I think I might go for magical for that one, because that would look quite cool, wouldn't it?
Your mushroom.
Yeah.
Hang on, you can't come through yet. You have to wait till I've come through. If only they could see. On display.
Okay. So, just because the chances of us actually managing to get that same design again is minimal, we can delete it. If you'd have written down like the size of the oval, you could keep it. But. So, sentiments. What I would say is, in terms of working with canvas, you are better off to use the desktop one for this than the online one, just because you have more font choice. So, I think actually I might do the 80s girl first.
Marie just joined as well.
Hello! So for this one, because I want to use different fonts for one word, this is an occasion where you have to type your letters individually, just so that we can have it all do something a bit different. So I'll type them first and then amend them after. Now Canvas can't do multi-line text, so when you're happy with the text that you've entered, you can just hit enter.
This is joining late, but that was beautiful. You can't.
Thank you. So we have a few weird and wonderful fonts that we've added, just a few. So let's start off with that one, a nice bold font. So what you want to be bearing in mind when you're designing sentiments is your finish size that you're aiming for. So if you're doing a cake topper or a sentiment to go on a card or even the title for your scrapbook, try and work out roughly the area that you want it to fit in first, and then you can always drop it over in a box or something as a guide. For this one I'm not too bothered. I can always reduce and shrink it if I need to, because I'm going to go for some nice bold fonts that are nice and easy to cut. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend getting started with something that's quite simple, like that's a no-no, that has a lot of body to it, unless you're doing vinyl. Let's go for, let's try that one. That one looks fun. We found a whole load on a hard drive that we had as backup ages ago, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So if I do pick a font that you want to know where it came from, just let me know and I can try and find out for you. Okay, so if you want your text to be one piece, you need to do it so that your characters overlap. So that's the other reason for typing all these individually. We can then select them all, go to edit, and we can weld. So that's going to be cut out of one piece of card. And if I look at the lady that I'm going to do it on, just so I can kind of get a feel for what I'm working with, I'm going to type time 2. And this time, rather than going for a bold font, I'm going to go for something that's quite narrow. Not necessarily scripty, but because I don't think it would suit the card. And then we can reduce the size. Now, because it's going to go small, rather than try to cut it out, I can set it to then draw instead. So, go into layers, draw. And what I tend to do is, if I'm going to be working on something where I've got lots of different layers, I can actually colour code that so I know that that's going to be a draw line. Then, just because I don't want to draw it straight onto my base card, I'm going to need to draw it on something else. I'm going to choose probably another flag shape of some kind. Let's go for that one. So you're going to think, oh blimey, that's huge. So when you're rotating, if you press and hold shift, it will constrain it and keep it straight. And you can then shrink it up. So we're concentrating on our centre points here. Because the outer points we can always edit. So I don't want to take that too much closer, I don't think. So before I go any further, I'm just going to go and, if I move that out of the way, line to the centre so I know it's spot on. Click off it, click again and click again. That's how we get to our nodes. Click and drag over our first set, and we're going to go press and hold shift and tap the right key. Then we're going to repeat over here. So press and hold shift and tap the left key. So that way we know they're even and we don't need to realign and we haven't got wonky ends. And because we've got those two to go together, we can group. And we can see that it still keeps its cut and its draw. Now you might decide that after you've done that bit, well, that's going to be drawn on pink, but you don't want the party in pink, or you might just want to put a shadow underneath. So we can just select that, go to offset, and we'll leave as is for our original line. And I think for this one I will go round both outside and inside. Okay, So if we go to our layers, we can see that we have our original text. So let's colour that pink, and I'll do it as the actual fill. There we go. Leave the outline as black. Just and you'll see it's actually putting our offset line over the top. So if I colour that too, so you can see. Let's go blue. Got to change back again. There we go. So you can see at the moment that is literally over the top. So probably the quickest way of changing that is just to drop that shape up on top. And then we also have this tiny shape in the centre of our A. Well, that's not going to be much good, so I can just take that out on this occasion. And if we go, right, okay, that's looking all right, but you need something else. You can still go back and always do another offset, and let's just say 1. Okay. And again, you can see it's put it up on top. So if we fill that shape in white, you can see it hasn't actually taken those inside shapes out. It's just left them as additional shapes. So this is good in some ways because you can edit them and play with them. But in others, you do want to make sure, just for future use, that you do actually subtract those down. So we can just go to subtract. And we can drop that in between the two, and you can see we've got a funky outline. Which is kind of 80s vibe, isn't it? That goes with it. So I'm going to take all that and move it up to, well, let's not go top left because everything goes top left. Let's use a different part of the map for a change. Let's go over here. So when you come to cutting that out, you're not going to want to send it like this because otherwise it's just going to cut that out of whatever you put on the mat exactly as is. So you're going to end up with this really fine strip. So what I tend to do is if we group that, we can duplicate the group. So I'll hide the original. And then we can separate this out. So I want to leave this top group together, but then we can actually bring down our party and top layer of our party. And just because when we send it to our machine it will remember the group, so therefore we need to ungroup that section. Which is a shame, it could still do with some extra bucket. So I'm going to take those. Now just because that blue's overlaying that edge, I'm just going to bring in a bit. So let's go for something a bit different, shall we? And go magical.
Deborah says thank you so much.
That's okay. So I'm going to go for something that's a bit scripty. So if we zoom in, you can see that each character is individual, and if we were to send that to the machine, it actually cuts out little holes between each letter, so to speak, because you've got the end of one letter that's overlapping the side of the next one. So what we need to do is we need to weld it. And with some fonts you'll find that goes horribly wrong, and I was hoping it was going to go wrong on me so I could show you how to fix it, but he's gone and done it perfectly. So this is now a shape rather than text, so you can't edit the text. So if you've done a typo at this point and you've done that, it's tough. You've got to go back to the beginning. But what we can start to do is we can actually start to edit and play with it, should you wish. So if you want to extend sections, we can do. So just because it's really tiny, let's zoom in. I'll zoom. Come on, catch up. So I just want to get to these nodes, and just going to nudge it with the keyboard at this point, so we can start to actually influence how that shape works, and we can use the handles to thicken shapes up if we need to, and we can really start to play. So if you want to add a flourishing, you can do, or the other way that you can do it is, because this is a shape now, if we go to the path tool, we can literally draw a path. So remember, it's click for a point and click and drag for a curve. I'm going to do a nice curve there. I'm going to bring it down to about here. I'm going to do another little curve that way. I'm going to come up to a point here. And we can go back this way. Click and drag in the other direction, because now we're coming back. And just join it to close it. Okay, so you can see we now have this separate swoosh. If we then select both, we can then merge them together. So that's another way of helping to strengthen any weak joins that you think you may have. Likewise, if you decided you didn't like that little bit just there, you can take that out as well using your nodes. And zoom back up. Okay, so believe it or not, that is actually quite big, you know, just under 4 inches for what a card is. And if you wanted to, you could do another little swoosh to put your UR, but I think I might just stamp that on this occasion. So, are there any more questions? Anything else you'd like me to show?
Yeah, because you're amazing.
It's practice. Lots and lots of practice. I use mine day in, day out for about the last, 3 years. I'm hedging my bets because Mum's watching. Is it 3 years, Mum? Oh dear.
Andrew says that's cool.
So if you have any more questions, or I will let you go. No? Okay. No?
No, it doesn't seem to be.
Okay. So in which case then, Lou's just started, hopefully. You've got Pete at 12:30 on his page. You have Leslie at 1:15. We'll be back for a brief video because I'm getting that look. Well, I'll probably just literally put all this together just so that you can see how they all come together in the end.
Well, it's just thank you, still learning, but it all helps.
Yeah. It's just lots of practice, and don't be afraid to play with it. It's not going to blow up on you. Well, I hope not. So, it's not going to bite your fingers off. You're not going to break it. Unless you hit it with a hammer, of course. If it's, frustrating you, then you'll break it. The only thing that you need to take care of really is the screen. So always raise and lower it with 2 hands. Use a USB extension cable just to look after your USB port. But other than that, it's fine. It's friendly, really. And there's like 10 different ways to do one thing. So you're bound to find a way that works for you eventually. You just have to put in the time.
Time to play with it, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll see you at 2 for a very brief session.
Just clean your rollers.
Yeah, clean your rollers. Yeah, good pair of tweezers, Tracy. Get the masking tape off, then just quickly give the rollers a quick run round with the alcohol like we showed you in the maintenance video. And you should be fine. Okay?
So, see you briefly at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, very briefly. I promise.